Your hands are so steady. And you're not even resting on anything. They're like literally so close to like touching and so close to touching the foot. Like it's crazy.
I just do a lot. Yeah, a lot of time.
Like I would have cleaned my tungsten probably like 6 times by now. Grind it down.
So if you were gonna weld this, what size filler would you get?
Whatever's laying around. Honestly, probably something pretty thin.
Yeah. So we keep, I keep like 16th and then 0.45.
I was gonna say 0.45.
Yeah. And we kind of already had this conversation before, but just want to make sure, like a lot of times people grab filler that's too thick, and then it takes more heat to melt the filler than it does to melt the base metal, so then you just end up with this big old blobby mess.
Same cup, I use it for most of my stainless and steel.
Yeah, that's perfect. This is, I still use like a regular like a small cup a lot, just because you get in some areas that the big cup, the big cup's kind of tough, but obviously this is all wide open. One thing that people do a lot of that they don't think about is, like, you get done welding, you got that little contaminated part, so you always want to cut that off.
Every time you stop.
Yeah, the other way to do it is like when you're welding, to hold it, like when you get done, you need to keep this down here and let the post flow happen, and you can keep that down there with it, and then that way you don't have to cut it off. And then the other important part, like when you're welding something like this, is like I'll weld like one of these joints in the middle, and then because these are right next to each other, I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that way you're bouncing around.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, I found if you weld here, sometimes it'll pull it here.
Yeah.
Pull it here.
Yeah, it's a constant, like, going everywhere and then trying to keep the heat off stuff. Because chromoly is inherently brittle. So one of the things you're also trying to do is to keep, you want the right amount of heat, because the more heat you put in it, the more brittle it gets. So, and then I'm kind of like OCD on some of this stuff. So I'll wrap this to here, and then I'll let that cool, and I'll come back and I'll weld one joint here, because I don't like multiple starts and stops and stuff, because that really doesn't matter, but just
try to keep the heat out of it.
Yeah. And then anywhere like when you notch something, like that's got like a thin spot there.
Yeah.
So I'll try to put a tack on my thin spot where I know, because like if you weld this and you get to here, did you see how like that kind of started running away from me?
Yeah.
It's because that's the thin spot. So like you always want to have like a little bit of something there. And then like on this stuff,
really good.
I do it every once in a while.
Just every day, right?
Yeah. Well, Ricky tries to let me do it every day, but all I'm doing here is like.
So I noticed you got stuck out really far. How far can you go before you start running into issues with like not enough gas over it?
Depends on the area. So like right here, like honestly, you could probably go out another inch and it'd be all right because you have a backstop, so that gas is going in there. So all I'm doing is like, I try to get, like these corners are obviously hard to get. So when I weld this, I'll weld around to this corner and I have a stop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That way you're like,
you can stick it out farther.
Yeah, I can do that now, and then when I end, I'm already done, and I don't have to go back in there and revisit it. And then I don't have like if you get to here with like normal stick out, then you gotta stop, do all this again, and then you have like a crappy looking deal. Yeah. So then when we flip this over, I'm gonna start there again on the opposite side.
Right.
And my start stop is hidden. So like when you look at this, which obviously it really doesn't matter, but it's all continuous weld. You don't see any of the start stop stuff. Like I said, man, some of it's just my OCD. But I'm not OCD about a lot of things, but like welding, I don't know. Put so much time into being good at it that you're like, to be really nice.
Yeah.
See how I'm concentrating my heat on the main tube?
Yeah.
It doesn't have the knock. Then you're just letting it fall. And then when we get here to start to kind of act up.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier to melt this tube and not burn a hole in that side.
Correct.
You know?
That's the whole thing. You're just playing a heat game. Like,
we'll melt this one more into that one.
Yeah.
Melt this one more into that one.
Yep. Like we'll do the same thing.
I noticed you're working the foot pedal too.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep heat. Yeah, I'm trying to keep heat out of it. So, because all this stuff's thin, you know, what I mean, it's like 049. So,
more pedal control.
Yeah, a lot of times, like I'll run pulse on the machine, but like it's just an on-off pulse, and I can show you that. But I figured for you, you probably don't have pulse on yours, so this would be better.
I do, I think, but I've never tried it.
And
I like working at my own pace.
Well, and like most people bring in pulse too early into their welding deal. Like I welded for 3 years before I ever messed with pulse, just because like I wanted to know how to control everything myself. Then like you'll notice D, he's welding on pulse right now.
He's welding long,
yeah,
long stretches.
And the reason we do that is like I kind of have a spacing that I like our welds to look like. So when we brought on Dalton and I was working with him, I got him set on like those pulse. Now he's able to dial that in himself, but I spaced it in the way that made him weld at the pace that we wanted it. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
It helped manipulate it to where like now, like if Dalton welds something or I weld something, you can't tell the difference. So that way, like we can pick up where each other left off, or you know whatever. But though, like here you see me stop because I got uncomfortable. So like a lot of times what happens is people will the weld, like they want that to be in one continuous joint, and they're not very good at starts and stops. So they'll keep welding even though they're extremely uncomfortable, and then the weld looks like hell because they just kept trying to fight through it. But
do you prefer to weld like on this stuff? Do you prefer to weld like standing or sitting down?
it really don't matter anymore.
Too much.
Like if you weren't here, I probably would sit.
Probably sit down, yeah.
But it's a little easier if I'm up, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. But yeah, as long as you're comfortable, that's the biggest thing, man. Like that's what most people fight, is they just can't get comfortable and they just keep trying to go. So like we had a guy that worked here one time. He's super talented, phenomenal welder. Like I can kind of weld like without like a lot of stuff helping me, but like he always needed, like he had little fixtures he made for his hands to sit on and stuff like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what it took for him to get comfortable. And like if he was welding in a car, he would carry a pair of vice grips with him with like a soft jaw, or he could
hold his wrist on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and some people don't need that. So either way it's fine. And see how like I'm always dipping on the very leading edge of the puddle?
Yeah.
That's a lot of times when you're first starting, people try to jam, they feel like they have to jam a bunch of filler in it, like right in the middle of the puddle. Well, like once this starts,
just barely on the edge of it.
Yeah, because like it runs the heat, like it wants to melt.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get close, you just put it on that very leading edge of the puddle, and it helps. Because if you keep, like if you're real like inconsistent, that's how you get them like real lumpy looking welds, because you're not dipping the same amount every time.
You hold the tungsten a lot closer than what I'm used to, but you could probably do that because you're not dipping the filler as close to the tungsten. You're kind of just on the edge of
Correct, on the leading edge. Yeah, you don't, that filler doesn't need to go all the way to the tungsten, you know what I mean? So.
But you're concentrating your heat in a very small area.
Yep. You know why I did that?
Why?
So, we can't blame Jaybird though. So, any piece of tube that you fit, all these tubes that Jay fit has a hole underneath of it, an 1/8 inch hole. So, this can breathe while it's going. Well, probably on this one he may have drilled the hole down here, and then this tube was put in and there's no hole. Okay. So, what happened was this built up with pressure because it's hot, and then it got a little thin, so it popped air out of it. So like if you're working, like you don't have to worry about that on turbo kits and stuff, but like if you fit up a piece of tube in a car, you need to drill a hole behind it so that the whole roll cage needs to breathe. Yeah. So that's,
it'll try to blow back.
Yeah. See, that's what happened there. We had this really gangster looking deal, and then it went. So what we'll do, we'll let that cool, and then we'll come back to it and fix it. Don't look at the light, okay? Don't look at the light, okay? Yeah, baby. Okay. Did you see how that had a tiny bit of a gap? And I nipped like, now you can't see it, but like it. So you're concentrated on
your hands are so fucking steady. And you're not even resting on anything. They're like literally so close to like touching and so close to touching the foot. Like it's crazy.
I just do a lot. Yeah, a lot of time.
Like I would have cleaned my tungsten probably like 6 times by now. Grind it down. It's one thing to see the welds after, but to like watch him do it, it's just a whole nother level.
It's rad to see the process of it.
What'd you say, buddy? Oh, all right, hang on.
Hopefully one day I'll be able to weld like that. Probably not though, because I don't do it for like a living. I mean, it takes so much time. If I could even be like half as good, I'd be okay. So Jaybird did all the cutting and notching and bending and stuff?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm a good welder is because I'm not as great of a fabricator. So
see, that's where Rob comes in. He's a good cutter and fitter, and then I do the welding. Like it's hard to be really, really good at both.
It is. Yeah,
it takes a lot of time.
And Jay and Brad.
It's easy just to be able to sit down and have somebody here weld it.
Yeah. And that's what Brad and Jay do. They build it and then I weld it, so it works out great. I mean, he added this in there. What took him 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was, that would have took me forever.
Oh yeah.
So.
All the notches and getting everything perfect.
Yeah, and he was like that little bit of a gap. Jay was like bummed on it. He was ready to make that piece, but I'm like, man, it's fine.
Like it never happened.
Yes, I can see it, but
I mean, pretty good for the circumstances.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Kind of smoothed it out.
Yeah, get in there and do a little fatigue body work.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize how much time goes into building a race car.
No idea. A nice race car.
Yeah.
I mean,
You can build it 5 times faster, but it's gonna be, pretty junky.
Yeah. And honestly, man, that's one of the reasons that we're trying to build less of them is it sounds generic, but we care too much. Like I really like them to, like, I want someone to get in it and look at every little piece and be like, holy crap, like this was built for me.
Yeah.
And it, I can see the time that it took on each little thing. But like a lot of times, not that people don't appreciate it, they just don't understand what it took to make it that nice.
Yeah.
But
that's how I feel about every edit.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
I noticed you run like a shorter tungsten and you like to use like the short caps and you put your finger over the edge to give you a little more control.
Yeah, especially on like stuff like this, like when you're welding like a rear end housing or like the parts that Dalton's doing, you need to be back like this just to keep yourself away from the heat. But you'll have something else to rest your hand on.
Yeah.
So when you're kind of doing like this tight, like small, tedious stuff, it don't get hot enough. You can kind of do that now.
Right.
A lot of time though. A lot.
I'm like waiting to see a mess up and I'm like, can't find one.
Yeah, when I went to just local welding school, and I just took TIG welding classes because that's the only thing I wanted to know how to do. Which I would advise anybody to do that. I mean, it's great. Now I know what material costs. I cost them money, man, because I'd go in and like I just would weld until they told me I had to stop, and it was a huge benefit, man.
Yeah. You're not burning your own money on material.
No.
That's where I'm like, shit costs so much anymore. It's like hard to want to practice all the time.
Yeah, because it costs so much. So like that class was like, the first one was like $700, and it was like a 3 or 4 month deal, and I welded twice a week. Like,
can't beat that.
No, like I said, they lost money.
Yeah, they'd have to have lost money.
How's it look?
It's insane, man. It looks great. I don't know how it can look much better, to be honest.
Thanks. It's a pretty good compliment. I guess that's good for sacrificing years of my life.